just like there drafting, like what am I gonna do? These people around me have no idea that I just got thrown out of a house. I am homeless. I'm like, where the frick am I gonna go? Just feel it, just feel it.
Shit, the great, we tell you the straight. Look here, you read on the rest of them face.
Hey guys, welcome back. This is a different video. Same day, I look the same. I know, it's totally fine. Yes, so just in case this is the first video you're seeing and not the other one, hey, welcome to my channel. Welcome back. If you're already subscribed, you're the real one. Okay, thank you for supporting the sister. If you subscribed, I really appreciate it. So today is gonna be a kind of a different kind of video. Why did I say kind of twice? I don't know. So I have been getting a lot of questions about people asking me like, why did I move to Grenada? Let me just actually read some of the questions. So I have, what made you move to Grenada and how was the first few months? And then I had, what is it like living in Grenada? Basically, I've had a lot of people like message me and ask me this question. So it's not really a very good experience that I had, and I have been thinking like, should I share this experience with you guys? And to be honest, I feel like I want to be honest on here and also just highlight things that could actually happen and not to get discouraged either way, no matter what happens in your life. So here I go, telling people my business. Okay. This is more of a story time about my life. I'm gonna try and tell you this as quick as possible and get it done, get it over with, because I also feel like I just need to get this out of my system in a way for me to actually get to grips of what I have actually experienced. Okay, so because it's wild, it's a wild journey and there's gonna be noise in the background. I can't help it, I really can't help it. So here we go. Let me start from the beginning of this. My mom died when I was 11 years old. When my mom died, I had some of my relatives that stepped in here and there and helped throughout my journey, like when it came to school. This is like a brief summary of my life. This might be important when we get to the actual story. Okay, so if you don't want to hear all this, I'll probably put the time where you could skip to the actual story. I lived on my own at 17 because there was a little there is so much there's so much to this story, but I'm not gonna get into all the specifics. Like, if you want me to make other story times about my life story, then you could always comment below and I could tell you like different stories that I have, because I have a lot. The world have been trying me from year 11. Yeah, anyway, that's a different story. So I lived on my own at 17 and then I was working obviously because I was paying rent, and then at a point wanted to do better for my life. I had started talking back to some of my relatives because there was a little no communication between us for a while. So it's like I wanted to do something better with my life, because even though I was living on my own, there were a lot of things that I was limited to, because it's really difficult living on your own when your job doesn't pay as much, even though I had a side job that kind of supported me as well. But just say I was looking for a better opportunity and I had the opportunity to go to England and see what I could make of it, and I did. So I went to England, I stopped working, gave up my apartment. So I basically gave up everything that I had and decided to take this step to go to England to see what I could do or manage, right? Things didn't really work out the way I thought it would have worked out. I had to go back home to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. To me, in my mind, I'm like, you know, I've done this thing once already, I can do it again. I'm a very determined person when it comes to, you know, getting things done and so on. Yeah, but I had a relative at the time who was living in Grenada. We were in communication at this time. I had actually been to Grenada a year before this time when I was in England, and I told them like, yeah, stuff, nothing really working out for me here, and I'm just gonna go back to St. Vincent and, you know, build back myself from there. They were like, you should come to Grenada and see if you can get a job here, because, you know, it's so nice here. It's a lot easier to get a job. And they were even telling me like one of our family friends who was gonna be a part of a project here, because they was having a new hotel was opening up, and they were gonna be a part of that process, and it would be easy for me to get a job. Basically, that's what I was being told. So I was like, okay, having communications with this person like a couple months before it was my time to return to St. Vincent, and I was like, yeah, like why not? Like, it's not like I'm going back home to something directly. So I was like, yeah, let me try and see what I can do here. Grenada is kind of a foreign place to me, because I came here once before and it was like for 1 week, so that wasn't really much to go off. So I, you know, was communicating with my relative, and they were like, yeah, I'm working on getting a bigger apartment so that you can have your own space, and so when you come, you know, because the last time when I was here I stayed with them, but they had a roommate at the time, so there wasn't really, I didn't have my own space and they didn't have their own space. But it wasn't awkward because I was staying for like 1 week. The way how they used to work as well, we never really got to clash with each other at that time, because I think they were like more on the night shift, and at that time like I would probably go out in the day. But if I'm coming to stay longer, then obviously I would need my own space. So the person said that that's something they're working on. They were very excited about me coming to Grenada, and I started to get excited as well. So let's just get into the story. Around that same time, my relative told me, you know, that they started to date someone, and so I was like, okay, cool. Then they said that the person was with child. I was like, okay, then cool. Nothing changed really. I came to Grenada, and then I realized that my relative and their partner were living together. Okay, cool. But when I went, I had like the room that I was staying in. When I went to the room, it had stuff for the partner, like the dressing table had stuff for the partner, like the drawers had stuff for the partner in there. It was just like me staying in somebody's room. It was kind of awkward to me because, like, as I said, I've been living on my own since I was 17, and when I have people by me, I have another room, but I would kind of give them that space so that they could feel comfortable, even though I know they're not staying for long, just so that they can have that kind of environment. Like my relatives stayed by me, well, not really stayed by me, but like they would pass and collect the key from me and go by my apartment and all these things before. So I should also note that me and this relative of mine, we never lived together at any point in time, but we had a very strong relationship like after my mother died and so on. So it was a really good relationship between me and that person. So I just thought that was important for me to mention. So yeah, I came and the room was obviously occupied with the person's stuff. There was like a small space on the dressing table for me to put my stuff, but I put it there in the beginning, but let's go ahead. So we went along, and I got to go to a lot of different tour sites because of the business that the relative kind of had on the side. So I got to go on tours and stuff like that, which was really nice. I enjoyed that in the beginning. Then about a month or like a couple weeks after being there and doing all that, the business that was associated with tours and stuff like that, I had asked the same family friend that was supposed to hook me up with the job at the new hotel, was saying that they were looking for somebody to work with them. So I was like, okay, cool. And you know, wow, that was quick in a way. And I sent them my CV, my information and I got called in for an interview. I went and I did my interview and I got the job. I think that this is when everything started to go sour from where I was living. I started working, everything was going fine, everything was going cool and dandy. One day I came home, and what would happen is that everybody would not take turns really, but like I would cook one day, you would cook one day, you would cook. It wasn't like a scheduled thing, but you would cook. Like if I'm home, I would cook, whoever cooks would eat that food. If you cook, I eat, whatever. So I went home one afternoon, I looked in the oven and there was like a slice of pizza in the oven. Mind you, it's a big pan, there was like one slice left. So I thought that it was left for me, but apparently not. It wasn't left for me, because while I was going through like the statuses on WhatsApp, and I saw that my relative's partner had on their status saying house rule number 1, don't eat anything that you do not put down. So I was like, obviously there's nobody else here. There was a slice of pizza in the oven, I just ate it and it has to be me. So I replied back and I said, I'm very sorry for eating your pizza. Like, yeah, at that time I asked someone to bring me 2 slices of pizza and so on, so that I could give to the person, because it's like nobody gonna break style on me for food. Like, really, that is so ridiculous. So I gave it to them in the morning, because it was night at that time. So I gave it to them in the morning when I received it. I paid for it and everything, and I received it and I gave it to the person. I said very sorry for, you know, eating your stuff. So then I felt really uneasy about that situation, and I went to my relative and I was like, I really didn't appreciate this. They confronted their partner about it, and the partner, instead of apologizing like a normal person would do, they started to catch a fit and threw a breakable cup at my relative. I was like pleasantly surprised, because I have never really seen these things in real life. Like, you know, you watch movies and you see people doing pelting stuff and you just like, ooh, that's a movie thing. No, it was happening in my real life. So I was like really confused. I was like, wow. Then the person came to me, storming at me, and said,
oh, that's what you come here for? You come here to break up my relationship
and stuff like that. And I was like, what? I didn't even say anything, because I was like caught by surprise about the whole reaction. I was like, okay, cool. Just like crazy people is about. Well, the same night my relative came to me and said to me, just don't touch anything for the person. And I was like, okay, totally fine. So what would anybody do? Not touch anything for that person. The thing is that my relative was the only person other than me who was working in the house, and they provided everything in the house. So if you tell me not to eat anything for the person, basically you're telling me not to eat anything in the house, because then how would I differentiate from what is yours and what is theirs, because you're kind of supporting them in a sense at that time. Yeah, so from that day I decided, you know what, I'm not gonna touch anything for anybody. When I go to work, I'll buy lunch and I'll eat when I'm out. So that's exactly what I did. Or if I buy stuff, I would just make whatever on my own and just have it for myself, right? That happened. I kind of brushed it off. I still talk to the person as normal. I would invite them out at times with my friend who I met since I came to Grenada, and there were a lot of things that were going on, whereas the person would like just barge into the room at any time, even if I'm just finished showered and putting on my clothes. I mean, I know that sometimes that's normal for people, like when you have maybe your relatives or so on, but that's not something normal for me. Like if I go into a room and somebody is getting dressed, I would be like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, I'll come back. That's just me. So it was kind of awkward that like I would be dressing and then they would just walk in on me and not even say anything and just go about their business basically. Also, like at night you come in and you put on the lights looking for stuff, because remember the person's stuff was in the room that I was staying in. And also you would come in on your phone at times and say like, oh my god, I don't even have space in this place, and so on. Mind you, I was living out of my suitcase because I didn't have a drawer for myself or anything like that. So my suitcases were literally in a corner with all my stuff. At one point I had like my suitcase kind of like a dressing table where I had put my like perfume, my spray, my deodorant, and all those other things. Yeah, I kind of knew that the person was being malicious to me, but at that time, like, I'm just trying my best to just get out of the situation that I'm in. Like when I'm going through something, honestly, I try not to focus on the situation at hand. I try to focus on how I'm gonna get out of the situation, because it was very uncomfortable for me. It was a very, very uncomfortable situation for anyone to be in, if I'm being honest. Also, one thing that they would really do is like put clothes on the bed all the time. The bed I was sleeping on, they would put their stuff on the bed. Like they would put clothes on the bed, they would leave stuff on the bed there. And what I would do is just like sleep at the side, like wherever their clothes isn't there, I would just sleep on the other side to like just avoid, you know, touching people's stuff. Even their suitcase, sometimes I actually have pictures and stuff in my phone of this, and it is just crazy now that I look back at it, and I'm just like, wow, it's so crazy. Then the job that I had gotten, they were kind of having some kind of difficulties, and I had to kind of stop working for a little while. During that time, it was kind of harder for me because I am trying not to touch people's stuff in the house. I kind of have nowhere to go. I don't know, I was trying to, you know, ignore the drama, but you know, when you're in a place, it's gonna get to you more and more and more. But still, I kind of managed to stay sane. There was another incident now where I had ended up becoming sick. I was sick because I was stressed out. Honestly, there was a lot going on. Like, imagine being in a house and you're told not to touch people's stuff to eat, and then this person is just behaving real irrational in the house. It was tough, okay, because there was a lot of different things going on. Not like too much for me to mention, the story would be too long, and honestly I don't really want to go into detail. Yeah, so if I was just, the story would be too long. I don't want the story to be too long. All these things were happening and I ended up getting sick. It was to a point where I used to faint, but when I faint, I wouldn't really tell anybody that I faint. Like, I keep things to myself a lot. Like, even when I was going through this thing, like, nobody really knew what I was going through because I keep a lot of things to myself, which is probably not a good thing sometimes. But hey, some of us are just like that. Like, if I'm going through something and I tell someone, then they're probably gonna be like, you know, I don't know, weird about it. And even though I was going through all this, I didn't want to paint a negative picture about the people that I was staying with my relative and their partner. I didn't want to paint a negative picture of them. I prefer people to know somebody from their own experience. I didn't really tell anybody because this is somebody who I really, you know, respected and I really trusted and appreciated in my life, talking about my relative, because I had known their partner before this time coming to Grenada. Yeah, so I was sick and fainting and all that. There was a point where I just couldn't really move, and I asked my relative to take me to the hospital, well, to the doctor. I said, hey, can you give me a ride so I can go to the doctor and so on, and then they were like, yeah, okay, no problem. The same time their partner was like,
we're going. If I need to go somewhere, you need to come and tell me. Suppose I need something. Blah, blah, blah.
And I was like, wow, okay. Before that, I was in bed for the day because I really was sick. And that day, I didn't go out and make breakfast, get anything to eat because I really wasn't feeling well. And what I used to do is that, because I didn't want to touch anything for anybody, which is like really insane when you think about it, I would wait until everybody's finished eating their breakfast and everything, and then I'll go out after. And normally there are like dishes and stuff in the sink from what people use, and they, you know, like I never went outside. I met a clean kitchen, and I'm a person who cannot prepare stuff for myself in a dirty environment at all. Like I'm that person. Like I can't make food in a dirty place. So I would go out after and clean up so that I could prepare my breakfast and so on. So that day that didn't happen. So I was in bed, then I heard the partner saying,
"Oh, nobody will help me do nothing in this house. Imagine it have wares in this sink. Nobody will help me wash the wares and
stuff like that," and carrying on because there was wares in the sink. Remember, I wasn't allowed to touch anybody's stuff, right? Which means that I'm in bed sick, and the reason why there's dishes in the sink is because I did not make breakfast for myself. So the people who had their breakfast and had everything for themselves, right? This person feels that I know I'm a slave because I should clean up after you, because what? I'm still trying to figure out, because like make that make sense to me. Like make that make sense to me. I one day sick in bed did not wash up your dishes, and the thing is that I wasn't washing up dishes to be kind to anybody, to be honest. If I'm being honest, like really honest, I wasn't washing up dishes because I was trying to be kind to anybody. Even though I clean up my own space and everything like that, I was cleaning up because every time I go in the kitchen every morning, it's dirty. I cannot dwell in a dirty place, so I would clean the place. That is the main reason why I was getting up and washing dishes that I did not use. Okay, that's the main reason, because nobody had to clean up after me. I'm the person, if I'm cooking, the only dirty dish that would be there would be the pot and the spoon that I'm using to cook with, because I'm the person washing while I'm cooking. I just can't deal with dirty kitchen. It's just something about me. I don't know, I can't explain it. So when that person reacted that way when I was sick, I was like, oh hell no, hell no, I'm not nobody's slave. And from that time now, I'm just like, you know what, I'm not even going to use that damn kitchen. I'm not. And I was like, if I go in the kitchen and the ways is there dirty after I'm sick, nobody even come and say, my relatives don't even come and say, oh, okay, you feeling okay, you need anything? Nothing like that. Nothing like that. And you have the heart to be making noise about dirty dishes in the sink. You know what I mean? So I was like, from that time, I'm gonna be real. Like I was like to myself, you know what, I'm not washing up nobody's dishes from this day. From this day, I was like, no, now I'm back to current situation with the going to the hospital business. So went to not the hospital, I keep saying hospital, I went to the doctor, and there was so much things wrong with me, people. There was so much I was dehydrated, my blood pressure, my iron levels were low, I was, you know, I had nasal drip, all sorts of different things, honestly. But I think the reason why I was fainting was because my iron was really low, and also the nasal drip, it makes you very weak, like drowsy and so on. So all that contributed to why I felt the way I did. And I also had fever, and I had an ear infection because of the nasal drip, because I have sinus issues. So what had happened at that time was that my ear was like ringing really, like I felt like, you know, like when like one of your eardrums is just like feels heavy, or like you have to like blow out to clear your ears, but that wasn't happening. It was just like ringing, and it was really painful. So that was what was happening to me. So I had fever, that, and all these other things about me. So I had a lot of pills to take after that. I think that's because of like everything that was happening around me. Like I wasn't able to take care of myself as I normally do because of the situation that I was in. So yeah. But the reaction I got, like just for asking to go to the hospital, and the fact that the day before I had not washed your dirty dishes for you. It was just ridiculous, honestly. Yeah, so that went, and one of my friends on Instagram had messaged me and was like, hey, so you're in Grenada. At that time I was also trying to seek jobs actively, you know, even though when I came, my relative mentioned nothing about the job with the new hotel. Nothing like that was like mentioned to me. Like, they weren't very interested in what I was doing. But then I was like, I didn't know how to react at the time. I was like, okay, cool, let me just try and do me, because that's all I could do. And somebody had messaged me and they were like, hey, I see you in Grenada, what you doing? So I was telling them, oh, I'm looking for jobs and so on, and they suggested a place for me and so on, and somebody else. So I sent in my CV, I sent in an application letter, just like everywhere else. Then I got a call for an interview. I went and I did my interview. Then I went back home and I didn't tell anybody because it was so uncomfortable at that time. Like, I didn't have anybody to talk to. Like, my relative was more with their partner kind of vibe. Like, I just felt like I was on my own in the house. So then I end up, and then I got called for a second interview, and I went and I did my interview. And when I was confirmed that you got a job, you're gonna be on 2 months probation. Sorry, not 2 months, you're gonna be on 3 months probation. Mind you, all of this is like my second month in Grenada. You're gonna be on probation for 3 months. I had already told them about, like, my plan is to, you know, go back to St. Vincent if things don't work out and so on. So they were like, okay. My time to go back into St. Vincent was 5 months, but my relative knew it was 6 months. And at that time, with all these things happening, I was kind of really wanting to go back home to St. Vincent, because it's like easier to try and get through with stuff in an environment that you're comfortable with. I'm not comfortable with this environment because I'm not from here. This is like my second time here. The first time was 1 week. Like, who do I really know here? Yeah, so I went to my relative and I told them, I said, hey, so I got this job at such and such place and I'm gonna be in 3 months probation, just letting you know. And this is frustrating for me. Like, up to this moment, like, this is the most frustrating thing. And something else I'll mention, this is exactly what my relative said to me. They said, oh well, you will need to find accommodation because I didn't expect for you to come to stay so long. I just wanted you to come and enjoy yourself. This is the same person that invited me to this country, telling me that I can find a job, knowing that I kind of was going back to St. Vincent to rebuild myself, in a sense, like try and get back a foundation. I left my, you know, like, remember, I have no job to go back to. I have no job to go back to, and I have to find a new apartment and stuff like that. And you invited me here, and then now you're gonna say you invite. Okay, wait. Fine, kudos. That night, honestly, I felt away. I did. I think I cried. I can't remember, but it's a moment. It's definitely something that I would not forget. You know, like, it's a moment where I started to see my relative in a different light. It was very disappointing and heartbreaking to, like, have somebody who you love and who you thought would have been like, oh wow, congratulations, that's really good, let's go and celebrate, let's go and have a drink. You know, that's definitely not the reaction you want to have, because it's like, you've done something good. Like, that's an accomplishment. I don't care what nobody wants to say. Like, that's an accomplishment. Coming to a country and having like 2 jobs in the space of like 2 months is an accomplishment. Not everybody is lucky enough, and I'm so grateful and blessed for this opportunity that I have, you know. My throat is getting dry. I need some water. You know what, let me just finish the story. I was pleasantly surprised by that reaction, and I just, you know, went to work and did my own thing and, you know, tried to perform the best way I could. But obviously I was looking for an apartment as well, as I was told. But the thing is that I'm on probation. I'm not a Grenadian. I have nobody to vouch for me, basically, to be like, yeah, she's gonna pay her rent. If it was in St. Vincent, it would have been a lot easier because I rented from 2 different people in my time there in St. Vincent. So yeah, so one evening I, was telling the person like, hey, I'm still looking for a place. It's just difficult. I actually just came from one place there, and so then they were like, why are you looking for a place? And I'm like, well, you told me to look for an apartment, This is what you said to me. I don't want to laugh, but what my relative said to me. My relative said, me, I would never tell you something like that. Like, that kind of hurt my feelings that you would say that I said something like that. That's not something that I would make up in my own mind and have in my mind, that to a point where I'm actually actively looking for a place to stay, you know what I mean? So that was like a crazy moment. So I started to be like, you know what, I don't know, this person might change their mind soon again. So I did not ever stop looking for an apartment, to be honest. So I had a friend here who I had met in Grenada, and they were staying in an apartment. I was looking to move out very soon, so they were saying like, when I move out, then maybe you could try and get here, which actually was working on. So there was that. This thing has happened like over a year ago, so there are some things that I probably might forget, but let's tell you like the most important parts. And yeah, so there was that. And at one point I remember my family member saying to me like, oh, I don't know how you get that job, like in a very suggestive way. And to be honest, that kind of hurt my feelings, because it's like you're telling me like I don't have qualifications. It's like you kind of look down on me in a kind of a sense, and that was very, very disrespectful in my that's how I felt, like disrespected in that moment. And I was like, wow, this person is different from what I thought they were, and yeah. So moving on from there, at this time, the things that their partner was doing in the beginning, putting stuff on the bed, putting on the lights at night, complaining about not having space, was like going up times 3. So they were constantly doing stuff to get to me. They would also like be talking to my relative, like when you're throwing words for somebody, but you would talk to somebody else to throw words to me. Yeah, that was exactly what was happening. So it's like you're throwing words at me, but you are talking it to my relative. And yeah, things were going pretty crazy. Also, one thing is that at that time too, my relative's partner would lock the whole house up, like when they knew I was coming home. So I would have to like knock. The first time my relative came and saw me outside, they like kind of spoke to the person, and they were like, oh, why you didn't knock to come inside, trying to be all condescending and whatever. And sometimes I would knock, and then I don't know if they probably heard me or they probably did not hear me, but I would be outside, and it felt so degrading at a point that I had to be outside. There are times when my relative came and saw me outside, and I just get inside the house. It came a point where I started to go out to avoid this, because my relative would work at certain like late hours at the night, because they used to do shifts. So like if they're a night shift, like they will be back home like after 1, and that's the time when I would get in the house, because I have to stay outside and wait for them to come to go into the house. I just like felt belittled that I had to be outside knocking to come into a house when I was when I just came home from work. It's not like I'm coming home late in the night. This is like 5 o'clock in the afternoon, like while the sun is still up and the house is locked. Somebody's coming out. You don't even come to check to see if the person is outside. And the person could say, well, she never used to knock to come inside, but like, why did you need to go that extra mile? Like before, there was no issue with this, but all of a sudden it just became an issue. Nothing happened, like say somebody burglarized in the area and you try to keep safe. Nothing like that happened. It's just like you being malicious to somebody else, which is really not nice. So I made some friends here in Grenada, and at some point I used to just like hang out with them, and I didn't tell them the situation. But what I used to do also is like walk with clothes in my bag just in case anything happens. Like I don't know where I'm gonna sleep, I just walk with clothes in my bag, so if I go somewhere I would have clothes to go to work the next morning. So I used to go out a lot, not because I really loved going out, because I really do not, like I'm a homebody, but because of the situation that I was in, I used to go out a lot to kind of get away from that. So sometimes I would go out with friends and I would go by them after, chill out by where they're living until when I know my relative will be back home. So I'll be like, oh, you could drop me home now. So it's like I was liming, but how to put it, so I was liming, but people never really knew what was going on. I guess they had an idea, but I never really said it to them. They never asked me anything, because I guess it would have been uncomfortable to ask that too. So yeah, so what I used to do is like I used to go by them and hang out. So there would be some nights where they'll be like, oh, you wanna go and lie down for a bit or so, and I would get to like sleep so that I could at least wake up early the next day to go to work. Because remember, I'm working at this time, working all the morning, out whole evening, waiting. Well, it would be certain weeks, because when my relative isn't working on that shift for the week, when I come home the house is open, so I could just go inside and I feel a little bit better because the relative is there, you know. So yeah, I used to, sometimes I even slept out, you know, not because I really wanted to, it's just for comfort's sake, you know. And these are people who I didn't really know that well. Like these people could have taken advantage of me at any point in time, and I probably might have been blamed, because it's like, oh well, you're the one who put yourself in that position, in a sense. But it wasn't like that. It was more of comfort to me at that point, more than safety, I guess. I don't know what to say. Yeah, so all of that happened, and it started to get really frustrating. I'm not even gonna lie. So I was thinking about going back home to St. Vincent. My probation wasn't up as yet. I was like, let me see if I can get home in some way. So trying to go home, organizing work, home, and trying to get everything together. So I had a lot of stuff going on with me at that time. Out late, no sleep basically. Trying to organize to at least get an apartment here, or go home to St. Vincent and work out whatever, I don't know. And it felt like so, like it was a heavy burden on me, because I didn't have anybody really who understood what was happening at that time. So I had all these things going on. I felt like I was going crazy, okay? So one night I went out, I was drinking, you know, a little bit tipsy and so on, and kind of fed up at this point, and I went home and obviously clothes on the bed as usual. So I went on the bed now, and I was so tired at that moment. I was so like tipsy and over it, and I just like slide the clothes off the bed so I can have space and be comfortable for once, okay? I just slid them off the bed, you know. And the next morning when I woke up, all I heard was
Kate, you see my stuff on the floor?
or whatever. So I'm, you know, kind of tipsy, a little hangoverish, and I'm just like, I looked at the person and I said, in my mind I'm like, if your clothes on the bed and I'm in here, obviously I'm the one who pushed them off the bed. So I was like, no. I said no to the person. Then they start,
oh, you were to pick up my stuff and wash them before I come back, because I would take your clothes and throw them outside and stamp upon them and burn them,
and so on, and carrying on, right? And then they went to my relative and told my relative, oh, how I pelt their clothes off the bed and all these things. So my relative now came to me and said, oh, Kate, did you throw the stuff on? Before they could finish the sentence or ask me the question, sorry, and ask me like what happened, the person came in,
oh, she rude, she can't stay, blah, blah, and blah, blah.
and then I'm just like, at this point, remember, I haven't really said anything else than no. And I'm just like thinking, and then my relative was like, but I didn't hear her say anything. He said,
Oh, you don't have to say anything to be rude. You don't have to say anything to be rude.
and then my relative was like, but Kate isn't a child anyway, you know, like, what do you mean? So then the person started to rush at me. They said they're gonna fight me and all these different things. So the person rushed at me to fight me, literally.
Text what happened.
They rushed at me to fight me, right? And I was there like, okay, wild Indian, okay, okay, wild Indian. Because to be honest, like, I know that they were maliciously putting their stuff on the bed all the time, and so on and so forth. So I kind of expected that reaction from them, but as I said, I was tipsy the night before and I was just like over it. So they had their moment to shine now. This is their moment to shine, because Kate actually fall in one of the traps them that they're setting up so much against me, right? So I'm there like chill. So I'm like, so why you putting the clothes on the bed? Like every time clothes are always on the bed.
You have fucking bed here? You have fucking bed here? Eh? You have fucking bed here?
Not my words, those are, that's the partner's words for me, okay? And I'm just like, oh, okay, all right. And then the person started to tell my relative like,
she have to move from here, she have to move from here, she have to move from here.
At that point I'm just like so over it, honestly. Like, I didn't cuss her back. She started to call me a whore, a bitch, and any other derogatory name. She started to call me all these things. And then my relative came to me and they were like, well, we'll have to find accommodation because this isn't working out, and so on and so forth. And I was like, okay, no problem, because at that point I was already sorting out myself, right? Remember when this person, my relative, told me that I would never tell you, you have to find somewhere to stay, and I would never think. This is to tell you that they have told me this before, because like, why would you come and tell me this now? Because you're the one who said, oh, nobody could run me from here and so on, and then now here you are telling me that I need to find accommodation elsewhere, which you said to me previously before, which you denied. Anyways, we're not gonna be petty and stick on that. So we passed that stage now, and I was like, okay, so I need to figure out where am I gonna go and sleep tonight. What am I gonna do, right? So okay, for God. So at that time now, I had a couple friends who I started to let into the loop of what was happening. Like, not the whole thing, but like kind of give them a brief of what was happening at that time. And people were like really alarmed. They were like, wow, does your relative behave like that, boy? Shit. Then one of my friends at that time, we were like, let us rent a hotel for the night. And I was like, it's a good idea, but like, we can't just rent a hotel for one night. That wouldn't really make any sense, you know what I mean? Because then what am I gonna do the other night? You see, the thing too was that, you know, money wasn't really a problem, because if I had a place to rent, like, I could pay my rent. So that Saturday I had some, remember I tell you I always have clothes, so I packed some clothes in a bag and I went. I had a friend who was lineman not too far from where I was staying at that time, and I went where they were having a little cook-up, and I went to the little cook-up, and then I was just like there drafting, like, what am I gonna do? These people around me have no idea that I just got thrown out of a house. I am homeless. I'm like, where the frick am I gonna go? The only person who I really knew is who invited me to this country. Now I'm on my own, and I'm like, shit, like, wow, this is some crazy shit, right? Yeah, so I met up with my other friend who we were gonna book the hotel with, and they were like, yeah, let me just hang out tonight. So for the whole night I was just out, like, partying and, you know, trying to enjoy life ignoring the fact that I'm homeless. Oh my god, oh my days. Ignoring the fact that I'm actually homeless in a foreign country where I have nobody really, you know, like it's crazy. It's so crazy. From that morning when I left to Sunday, my relative who invited me to this country, you know, knowing that I don't know anybody else here, did not even call me or message me to find out if I am okay. Like, you know, anything could have happened to me. I'm a female, first of all. Like, I would never ever want anything like this to happen to anybody. Call and say, hey, you know, I know what happened, I'm so sorry, you know, or be like, hey, you okay, just checking into whatever. Nothing like that. Not a phone call, not a message, you know, nothing from that person. Nothing nothing at all, honestly. By the grace of God. Whew. A friend that I had here was moving out of their apartment, and by God's grace I got you to get the apartment. Okay, so I forgot to mention that even though I had gotten through with getting the apartment, like I made down payment and also first month's rent, I still had to wait until the beginning of the next month to move in, because even though the person had moved out, then they needed to make checks and stuff before I could move in. It was around Christmas time and I had decided that I was gonna go to St. Vincent. So my time to go back to St. Vincent wasn't up as yet. My probation wasn't up or anything as yet, but they gave me 2 weeks to go home to St. Vincent. When I was supposed to go home now, well, I was gonna get the boat to go. I don't know, maybe I wasn't really supposed to go on that boat, but everything that could go wrong went wrong that day and I missed the boat. Yeah, so I missed the boat and I was homeless. I didn't have anywhere to go. Honestly, I'm not even over exaggerating right now. Like, I didn't have anywhere to go. So I called the place where I was supposed to be moving into when I come back from St. Vincent, and I explained to them, like, I'm very sorry to be calling you now, but is there by any chance that I could move in today? And the person was like, let me check and see, and then they told me, yes, sure, of course. Oh my god, because honest to God, I do not know where I would have gone to. Honest to God, like, I was homeless, like literally homeless at that moment. And people might say, oh well, you had an apartment that you were gonna move into. Yes, but if the person said no, where was I gonna stay? Where was I gonna sleep? Homeless. So I got to move in that night. Also, what I did was I had moved my stuff out to take them by one of my friends who was staying in Grenada, but they weren't Grenadian, so they were in Trinidad at the time, but they allowed me to leave my stuff by them. Yeah, because the person had threatened to do all sorts of stuff with my belongings, and I didn't want anything to happen to them, so I had asked my friend to keep them by them, and they said yes. So I ended up calling my relative to get me a ride so I could move my stuff. And I kind of, you know, I don't know what made me do that, but just something just said to call him. I had asked somebody before, and first time the person was busy when I ever asked them to do something. First time ever. Right, so at that time I called my relative, because the fact that I did not get to go home, I would have needed the stuff that I had left by my friend. So I asked my relative. Mind you, I haven't spoken to my relative since that incident happened. I called them and they said, okay, sure. And they came, they picked me up like nothing was wrong, like nothing happened, you know. Like, I felt like I was in Twilight Zone, like I was going crazy and stuff like that. Anyway, they dropped me. We were like 5 minutes away from the place. 5 minutes. And my friend wasn't there. They had asked the person who they left in the house to open the house, and they left from like a good journey to just go and open the house so I can get my stuff. And we were 5 minutes away. We could literally see the hill where the place is, and my relative got a phone call from their partner, and all I heard was, okay, I'm coming there now. I have somebody waiting on me, you know, doing me a favor, you know, because of the situation that you put me in. you put me in and you still turn around to drive 20 minutes away from the place to pick up their partner's relative to drop them somewhere when I was 5 minutes away. And then when we're driving back now, they want to be like all jolly and like, and I'm just like, is this person serious? Like, is this person serious? You know, like, maybe I am the mental one, I don't know, maybe I am, I have no idea. So then they started driving and stopping to talk, which was more annoying to me because I have somebody who's waiting for me to get there so that they could go back to doing what they were doing, you know. And at one point I was like so annoyed, and the person was like, oh, let me just take you to your people. What do you mean by that? Like, take me to my people? Are you serious? Oh God, Lord have mercy. The person said, let me take you to your people. So I was like, my people? I said, I was thrown out of your house, your apartment. You told me I need to find accommodation. So the thing is that I left my stuff there. I was on my way to St. Vincent and I missed the boat or whatever. So now I have to pick up my stuff from the person so I can move into my new apartment. That is exactly what is happening here. Then my relative was like, what do you mean? Who threw you out? And so I'm like, were you not there when everything happened? Weren't you the one who told me I would need to find accommodation? Didn't you hear your partner say that they don't want me in the house? Did you? Where were you? Like, where were you when all of these things was happening? Like, now you're trying to play it off? Like, that's just ridiculous. So they got out of the vehicle again and started to make like hand gestures and stuff and saying like, oh, like, you don't like them things and so on and so forth. So I was just like, over. Listen to me, at this point I'm just so over the whole situation. Like, I didn't really care about what these people were doing, honestly. I just wanted to get my stuff to move into the apartment that night. And also I wanted a ride to go to the airport because I was still determined to go home to get a breath of fresh air from everything that was going on. So remember, I had my flight that was supposed to be up in 5 months time. It wasn't 5 months yet, so I was going to the airport to bring it forward so that I can go home. So that's what I did. So I asked them to give me a ride to the airport. They were explaining to me like, you know, like I knew everything that was happening, but I just thought like everything would resolve itself. And from the beginning, their partner did not want me to come to Grenada. They didn't want me to come from Jump, so that is it. And then every day they used to ask them like, when am I gonna move out, when am I gonna leave, and they just didn't know, whatever, I don't know. So I was just like, okay, cool. I had forgiven and just like wanted to move on with my life, but there are a lot of things that still happen. Like, I've been given chances upon chances, and it's like I used to try to call them, but like their partner would have their phone. Because even when I left here and went to St. Vincent, I gave them the keys to my apartment, you know, so that they could like, you know, do whatever. I'm actually gonna try my best to like finish the story as soon as possible. It's already too long. I might have to edit out some of these things, but yeah, there are a lot of things that I really don't have enough time to mention, or the story would be too long here. I just can't deal with that inconsistency in my life right now. So for me to grow and for me to really focus, I really cannot, you know, have a relationship with this person at this time, especially if they're with the person that they're with. It's too toxic, and up to this day I've never been given an apology, you know, from anybody, but I am still being harassed up to this day by my relatives' partner. Up to like last week or so, like they would message me and let me know how ungrateful I am. It is funny to me how ungrateful I am and so on. So I don't follow them, so I don't know what they post, I don't know what they say, but from the fact that they threw words for me from a slice of pizza, I could imagine that they probably threw words for me after that. So yeah, I honestly have nothing against these people. I am just trying to focus my energy on positive thinking. And I know a lot of people might say like, oh, you didn't have to tell the story, you didn't have to say this, you didn't have to say that. no, I absolutely did not have to do it, but I just felt like sharing my experience. You know, like a lot of people have been asking me like what it's been like for me, and I just felt like sharing my honest experience with you guys. And I just want you to know, like, if you're going through anything similar to what I was talking about earlier, like, there's actually a happy ending to this story. I'm in my own apartment now. I have a bed that I could stay on. Nobody has to put clothes on it. I could do whatever I want freely. So just remember that there's always a light at the end of the tunnel, and that's what I focus on when I'm in those situations. Thank you guys for watching. If you got this far, then wow, thank you so much for watching. And you can subscribe to my channel. If you want more stories, then you could always drop me a comment below and let me know. Stay safe, and I love you guys.